Today is the story of The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, one of the Wii's most hyped games, and how a game-changing exploit pushed the boundaries of what the Wii was capable of by allowing user-made software to bypass Nintendo security and be installed on the console. But before we get into all that, let us set the scene with some brief background information. The Wii is the 7th best-selling console of all time. It sold an astounding 101.63 million units over its lifetime. It single-handedly pulled Nintendo out of the rut it had been stuck in with the Nintendo 64 and GameCube's lackluster sales numbers. It was the console that shaped Nintendo's place in the market today. Nintendo was no longer trying to compete with the graphical fidelity of the Xbox or the PlayStation, but carve out its own place in the gaming industry by providing gamers a unique experience that couldn't be found elsewhere. There are two key components to Nintendo's winning formula. Firstly, their innovative approach towards gaming. In this particular case, we can point towards the Wii, with its motion controls and wild accessories that made gaming feel more involved and even more accessible to non-gamers. And secondly, their solid exclusive gaming library. The popularity of the likes of Mario, Zelda, and Pokemon is unquestionably unbeatable in comparison to other companies. Naturally, because of one of Nintendo's core strengths lay in their game catalog, they have always been very creative with the ways of preventing piracy, from the days of cartridges with special lockout chips to even now with multiple different checks performed to ensure that real Nintendo products are being used. You can imagine Nintendo's surprise when they learned that the console was being altered by what became known as the Twilight hack. The Twilight hack was a popular method used to exploit the Wii's console system software. It was the first way that allowed users to run unauthorized homebrew applications and games on their consoles without having to do a hardware modification. This hack utilized a modified save file from Twilight Princess to exploit a vulnerability. But before we go any further, let me explain what homebrew means. Homebrew, when applied to video games, refers to games produced by hobbyists for proprietary video game consoles which are not intended to be user programmable. The official documentation is only often available to licensed developers, and these systems may use storage formats such as ROM cartridges for the Nintendo 64 or encrypted CD-ROMs. Many consoles have hardware restrictions to prevent unauthorized development. Now, what the Twilight hack did was bypass these restrictions and took advantage of a buffer overload vulnerability that existed in the Wii's save file system. A buffer overload, explained simply, is a software vulnerability that occurs when a program tries to store more data in a buffer, which is a temporary storage area, than it can actually hold. Think of it like pouring too much water into an ice cube tray. The water will flow into the next parts of the tray. This extra data can overwrite adjacent memory locations, leading to unexpected behavior or security breaches. In computer memory, buffers are allocated to hold a specific amount of data. However, if a program doesn't properly validate the size of data it receives, it may allow more data to be stored in a buffer than it can accommodate. This can happen due to an input from a user, network data, or other external sources. The excess data is written beyond the allocated buffer space. It can overwrite adjacent memory locations. And when we look at Twilight Princess's case, this meant unauthorized code execution. By carefully crafting the excessive data, the hackers can overwrite memory with their own code. When the program tries to execute the overwritten memory, it unwittingly executes the hacker's code, which leads to unauthorized access. Users would boot up the Twilight Princess, load a specially crafted save file name through the game, and then inject code into the Wii's memory, bypassing its security checks. This is a quote from Team Tweezers, who are the creators of the hack, and how it works. The save file stores a custom name for Epona, Link's horse, that is much longer than what the game would usually allow. In fact, it even contains a small program. While the game doesn't allow you to manually enter a name this long, it doesn't check the name in the file. When the game tries to load the name into memory, it inadvertently drops the small program into the memory filing, not only the horse's name into the buffer, but to the adjacent ones. In a roundabout way, these regions of memory happen to be designated for the next region that the console should execute. As you can see, this save file has been specially crafted indeed. Once the code runs, it loads either boot.elf or boot.doll from the save file on the root of your SD card. If the boot.elf or bootmini.elf that loads the hackme exists on the root of your SD card, then you can use it to install bootme.ios or, more importantly, the Homebrew channel. And why was the Homebrew channel so important? Well, the Homebrew channel is a self-updating Homebrew application loader which allows users to load Homebrew applications without having to run the exploit every single time. Once this was on the console, other Homebrew applications could load smoothly in a much more user-friendly fashion. Keep in mind, if you didn't have the Homebrew channel installed, this literally means that users would have to load the save from the Twilight Princess, perform the hack in order to load the Homebrew applications. So you can definitely see the importance and the significance of having the Homebrew channel. Examples of what the Homebrew community for the Wii was able to accomplish. The Wii browser, for example, was a web browser that allowed you to browse the internet. The Open Shop channel, which was an application that allowed users to directly download Homebrew applications to their Wii without the need of a computer and then later having to move it to the Wii via an SD card. More notably, you also had Wii, which replaced Nintendo's discontinued Wi-Fi connection service. This is a massive mod to the Wii as it allows for many games to still be able to be played online. A very popular one being the existence of the very competitive and very lively Mario Kart Wii, which is still operational today due to the existence of these services and applications. In conclusion, the Twilight hack became popular because it provided a simple and accessible method for Wii owners to explore the Homebrew scene, run emulators, and play unofficial games, as well as unlocking additional functionality on their consoles. It played a significant role in establishing the vibrant Homebrew community that exists for the Wii. Nintendo later released system updates to patch the Twilight hack vulnerability, aiming at enhancing the security of the Wii software. As a result, subsequent versions of the Wii system software made it more challenging to utilize the Twilight hack. However, other methods did emerge to exploit newer Wii software versions, which used a very similar method, but just with a different game. That's been it for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to leave a comment below telling me your favorite Wii title, as I'll be diving into a lot of different content in the upcoming weeks. Have a great day, everyone.